Hello everybody, thank you for chiming in today. We're going to discuss how to lose body fat and gain muscle mass at the same time, simultaneously. Is it even something that's possible? Is it even something that's achievable? Yeah, it actually is. The studies are showing more and more often that now that you are in a maintenance, you can go ahead and sustain your muscle mass, if not promote more muscle mass and body recomp. Now, it's not going to be feasible for a different division of people. Let's say you're pretty advanced, for instance, you have a heaping load amount of muscle mass and you need to put on 1 or 2 more pounds of muscle mass. It's not going to be ideal for you. So if you're going into a caloric surplus, you're going into a caloric surplus because that's where you're going to see the most gains. If you're going into a deficit, you're going into a deficit because that's where you're going to see the most fat come off of you. Now I'm just going to hit a couple points here. The 4 strategies on how we would lose and gain muscle mass simultaneously, and it's diving into the details. So if we're talking about these things, we're going to be going over your sleep, your water intake, your resistance training, and your nutrition. Now it's encompassing everything there, and these are different studies that have been posted on PubMed if you want to go ahead and reference these things on your resting metabolism, your sleep, and your nutrition. There's other studies that go over everything as far as like where the nitty gritty is, as far as like the chemicals and all that and what's going on within your body, but I'm just going to give you the cliff notes of what these studies are showing. So with certain individuals, over time, what we've seen is that your resting metabolism from dieting only starts to drop off. So if you're starting in a zone of like 2,000 calories and then you get stuck and you start to drop off 1,800, 1,600, 1,200 calories, your metabolism actually slows down with you. So in order to counter that, for instance, you want to include some resistance training. So your resting metabolism looks sort of like this. You're spiking your resting metabolism, and you can also do that now, as we've started to learn as well, is that you can do that with refeeds. So people that have been dieting for 12 to 13 weeks in case studies are showing that if they just diet all the way through, they actually lose more body fat than someone who's taking breaks along the way. This doesn't necessarily mean get carried away. Try to stay to your regimen. And then when you do have a refeed or something like that, you can increase your carbs, decrease your fats, and kind of surge your metabolism to go ahead and start igniting again. The second one we'll dig into, so we just covered that resistance training. Why you would want that resistance training is because it's going to sustain your resting metabolism. What is your resting metabolism? It's going to be the calories that you're burning at rest. So if you lose muscle mass while you're losing weight, the chances are that you're going to start losing more muscle mass instead of the body fat that you're trying to decrease and reduce. As well as if you're increasing your resistance training, you're going to look more aesthetically pleasing because the muscles that you're training are going to sustain with you, and they're going to pop and actually give your body shape so you don't turn out to be skinny fat. Now, if we're talking about resistance, we're talking about the next one. Let's go into water intake. There's studies even being shown that if we did 400 milliliters or 200 milliliters, vice versa, if the more water you intake, the more it has a thermogenic effect. Now, I also tell a lot of my clients that the more water you intake, the more fat you're going to break down. Now, this study on fat is showing that you start to break down adipose tissue, your brown visceral fat, more frequently versus, just going ahead and not burning as much fat with people that are more dehydrated. So just increasing the amount of water that you're drinking a day is going to help you metabolize more body fat as well as break down that fat tissue, and it's going to bring you more frequently to the bathroom. So that doesn't just mean for number 1, for number 2 as well, because you're going to start passing stools more frequently because your metabolism is rising. And that's just another caveat that it actually brings up your core temperature. So especially in males, you're going to drop off more body fat just by increasing your water intake. Now, if we go in, dig into nutrition, I mean, this one should be like a no-brainer, right? For instance, but I'll just give you a quick example as to why nutrition is so important. But there was a couple case studies with two types of classes. So there was about 20 people in one division that they were taken into a resistance training program and a nutrition protocol. And in that group, those people lost 25 pounds of body fat. 25 pounds just straight weight. Now, another group was just thrown into a division where they only were dieting. So 20 individuals then lost 20 pounds, just pounds in general. So the division of the group that was lifting weights and dieting only saw about 2.5 to 5 pound differences. So why arguably would you even work out, for instance, right? But these are just incentives for you to start working out and start getting on a good regimen protocol, because if you don't, then you're leaving some pounds on the table, as well as, like I said, you're going to look more appealing because you're going to get more toned, lean muscle mass, and you're going to get more body fat off of the top. Now, these individuals and a lot of these studies that are being done are under untrained or really controlled subjects for how they're lifting and exercising and everything like that, or not lifting at all. So I would arguably say if somebody was increasing their intensity as well as their volume as well as their frequency within the gym and was just all out training pretty hard, I've seen cases where in my own clients, I've seen them take 25, 30 pounds off the top within 2 months, and that coming solely and more specifically from body fat, especially when they were following the regimens and the diets, because normally people aren't eating the best. So the second they start eating some higher quality foods, you're going to get newbie gains, and then you're going to start dropping and cutting a lot of body fat off the top. But let's go into the last one. So this study was pretty interesting. It's on sleep. So sleep. I actually had one of my clients do this because they just weren't sleeping. And my hope was that it would actually increase more fat loss from fat storages. Now this study kind of just backs it all up. So there was a group of different individuals. They came in and they took about 7 people and decreased 1 to 2 hours of sleep on them. And what ended up happening was that this group started to lose 1 to 3 pounds of muscle. So it's like, okay, just 1 to 3 pounds of muscle, it's not that serious. But they also cranked up 3 pounds of body fat just from sleeping less. Now, what's interesting is that the second group started to lose about 82% more fat when they started to see some weight loss. So they're losing more body fat, and they put on about 1 to 2 pounds of muscle just from sleeping for a full 8 hours. So arguably, I would say implement all of this if your goal is really to lose fat and gain muscle mass at the same time. And if you wanted a bonus tip on how to get after it, the other thing I would say, which are not necessarily proven, but adding supplementation. Adding supplementation that is somewhat proven, because supplementations are very vague and kind of like that black market. But things that you can look for, or a CLA, something with caffeine, like a green tea. These things accelerate your metabolism. Carnitine, as well as just fat burners in general. If you get into more supplements, a protein powder, multivitamin, fish oil, amino acids, all of these things can help you just dial that in, so these details can help you just drop off more body fat. And at the end of the day, that's what you're going to want. You're going to want to preserve as much muscle mass and reduce as much scale weight, and coming from the scale weight being body fat. So if you implement these details, especially if you're a beginner or you're in the middle or you're just getting back into exercising again, you can reap the rewards and drop a lot of body fat. As well as somebody with a maintenance amount of calories, I've seen people recomposition and sustain 127, 125 pounds throughout 12 weeks, and they look completely different. Now, do you need to train hard? Yes. Do you need to diet hard? Yes. But these are things that if you want to implement them, they work time and time again. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. I'm going to be putting out more content more frequently on these type of topics. Let me know in the comments below what you guys want to see. If you have any questions on any of the things that I listed, and I'll put out these studies if you want to dig into them a little bit further, and the links so you guys can check them